Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new, my name is Bobby. Guys, today we're gonna check out Shaykh Abdullah Oduro. He popped up on my feed lately and he is speaking about red pill and manosphere subjects, however from an Islamic lens. So therefore let's call this the green pill. In today's video he talks about 5 red flags Muslim men ignore in a woman until it's too late. I'm very curious to see what kind of take he will have on the subject matter, because I'm of the firm conviction, Muslim, Christian, atheist, it doesn't matter who you are, ultimately you will be a victim of your biology. Our biology determines our life, male, females alike. I mean, just think about it. Your biology determines how you look like. How you look like will determine how you are perceived in the world. Your biology determines how high your testosterone level will be, etc., etc. And all of that then will influence your behavior. So therefore, we are clear subjects to our biology. Of course, we can tweak certain things. For example, if you're eating a lot of junk food, your testosterone will plummet, you will feel bad overall. But now, again, you are feeling bad because your biology is suffering. You understand what I'm saying? So therefore, if you enhance your biology, you still will be subject to your biology. Anyways, I'm going to keep that rant for later on in the video. All I'm saying here is that we are human, males and females, no matter if we're Muslims or not, and therefore want to see what the Islamic solution from the Shaykh's perspective is on the subject. Alright guys, but before we jump into the video, as always, if you enjoy my content, leave me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so, and check out the links in the description box below to further support my work. And now with no further ado, let's have a look.
Nowadays, a lot of Muslim women look perfect on the outside. Polite, hijabi, everything that you could imagine, beautiful. But after marriage, nothing that you expected. The reality is, she never changed.
Nope.
There were just traits that you never saw that was sitting there all along.
Yep.
Now, over the years, I've worked with brothers that have seen these small signs, but because of the beauty and the superficial aspects, they think that they can put the cape on and save her and be the damsel in distress.
Captain Save.
Only to find out that later after marriage, those small signs became the biggest sources of their problems in the marriage. So the next time you talk to a sister or court a sister, keep these 5 considerations in mind. Because if you don't, this could be detrimental to your peace, your deen, and your marriage. Red flag number 1.
Before he jumps into the 5 red flags, I want to interrupt here and confirm what he says is absolutely true, that we as men, we fall for the beauty and then we don't see the red flags. You have to understand, every creature in this world has a defense mechanism. So a lion, for example, has claws, has fangs, teeth, etc., right? A gorilla has its strength. You have poisonous plants that will kill you if you eat them, etc., etc. So we as males, our defense mechanism primarily is our physical strength, if you really boil it down. Women didn't have that. And therefore, in human history, their defense mechanism was, of course, their beauty and how they will bind a person, bind a man to themselves. And how will they do that? Again, through their beauty. It is quite amazing, actually. You will see that with so many brothers, man. They will tolerate so much BS from women just because they look good. I had friends, brothers, telling me what their women would do and how they would tolerate it. And I would always say, hey man, listen, if I would do that to you, as one of your best friends, would you tolerate me? So really think about it. As men, we wouldn't tolerate such behavior in men. However, when it comes down to women, just because they look good ultimately, we are able to tolerate anything. And this is because we as men, we are not hypergamous. We date down. They did an experiment on this, matter of fact, where they took a man and they put the man, the same identical man, in a McDonald's uniform and then in a suit. Guess what? All the women, of course, when they were asked who they would date, they chose the guy in the suit, even though it was the same men. However, when you ask the same question with a woman in those uniforms to men, then men, I think it was 90%, will choose the McDonald's worker. Because we like to provide for them, we like to protect them, we like to take care of them. And all we need in return is beauty and peace. And most brothers already settle for beauty. As long as she looks good, it is enough, man.
1.
That's
disrespect for your deen.
Yeah, okay.
She
No
disrespects the way that you practice Islam. I mean, your spiritual paths are not aligned. Yes, she's Muslim. Yes, she loves Allah and she loves the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But when it's something that shows that you want to follow a particular sunnah or you want to practice your Islam in a certain way, she disregards it. She makes fun of it. She downplays it. She belittles it. Why do you have to go to Umrah every 2 years, for example? You tell her, you know, I always like to go to Umrah once every 2 years, once every 3 years. And she says to you, why do you have to always be so religious and going to Ummah so much? Just go once. You don't have to go all this time. But on the flip side, she loves to go to Rome or go to Italy or go to different places every year for vacation, belittling the fact
Even
that you
twice
want
or
to
three
go to
times per year.
Ummah too. That she was termed, as I've heard before, the desert, right? You try to grow your beard out beyond the face limit. You want to grow it out because you want to practice the sunnah of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and she starts to make fun of it. She starts to say that it's ugly. She starts to say that it's unkept. Now, it's good to keep your beard up and to look like it's intentional, alhamdulillah, but the fact of you growing it, she belittles it, downplays it, and says that it's barbaric. This is where it can be a problem. Like, she may say that in the interview when you speak with her, I'm saying. When you talk about these aspects of this, why do you have to go to the masjid every single day? Those are for the real, like super religious people. Well, okay, I'm someone that plans to be, in your terminology, super religious, because there's a virtue in going to the masjid and meeting my community. When she downplays your practicing of the religion, as long as it's not overzealous and, going beyond the bounds and being too harsh, which the Prophet ﷺ has defined in certain aspects,
don't go to extremes.
as long as it is not that, downplaying the deen means there's lack of spiritual alignment. That could be a red flag.
Yeah, I think he was very kind there by giving examples of the beard, of the masjid, of Umrah. Honestly, nowadays, with many sisters, I've seen that they've been so liberalized that simple practicing is already too much for them. Honestly, I'm not saying everybody, obviously we still have good Muslimas. However, you see plenty of Muslimas from Muslim countries telling me now that it is extreme to pray 5 times per day. So it already starts there.
Red flag number 2 is material focus in conversation. What we mean by the material focus in conversation is the majority of your conversation, or the majority of her conversation, is about tangible things, about money, about your income. Not to mistake in the fact that she has the right to know your income. Her father has the right to know how much you make. She may ask these questions because she got in a previous divorce and was not taken care of financially. So she wants to know how much you make. But if everything she asks, and the majority of what she asks and talks about, is money, your money, what money can buy, how often she wants to buy it, and the one that does not do that, how that would be disadvantageous for the brother. She's not, she may downplay a brother and say that's in the name of neglect, because of what she previously faced from her ex-husband or from her father. If the majority of conversation is wrapped around tangible things, cars that she has to have every couple of years, a new house that she has to have every some odd time frame, that she wants her house to be remodeled, the furniture every single, every 3 years. She talks about traveling. She wants to travel to Spain, to Italy, to Rome every year. But then when you mention Umrah, there's no conversation in that, right? There's nothing about values. There's nothing about deen. There's nothing about principles that she would hope that the man possesses in regards to those values. It's all about tangible things, name brands, how she should be taken care of in regards to beauty products, etc. Those expectations, brothers, that is a red flag.
Yeah, that is a gold digger, as I said already, but I don't see anything wrong with asking the question. However, if materialism is the only subject of the conversation, okay, then you know where you're at. I would suggest that this is not really bad if you are abundantly wealthy and you simply look for a second or a third wife.
Number 3, she avoids in involving the family early, particularly her guardian, her wali, her father, her uncle, if the wali's passed away, her grandfather, etc. Her guardian, she avoids in involving them early. Now, there have been cases to where there's not a good relationship between her and her father. I won't say that's immediately a red flag, but it's something you should be concerned.
But that is immediately a red flag.
Yes,
that is immediately a red flag.
Why is there not that good of a relationship between you and your father? You can find out from other family members.
Okay, I have to cut it off right there, because the thing is this: if she doesn't have a good relationship with her father, she won't have a good relationship with you. Let me repeat this. If she doesn't have a good relationship with her father, she won't have a good relationship with you. It won't happen, because she never understood how a man has to be treated. Every human being models what they grow up with in their family. They learn from their parents. And so therefore, if she didn't respect her father, highly likely the mother, her mother, already didn't respect the father. So therefore, she never understood how a woman has to treat a man, and therefore she never was able to model that. If she grew up with a bad relationship towards her father, she will project that onto you. Don't get it twisted. That is the biggest red flag and should have been mentioned on number one. Because, yes, it is possible that at first everything is lovey-dovey. You get along fantastic. Everything is amazing. But once you get married, then you take that role of the father. And if she despises her father, yet again, she will project it onto you and she will despise you. Don't take it personal. It's simply that she is damaged. And therefore, this marriage is absolutely doomed already from the get-go. Never marry a woman with daddy issues.
Or find out from family, friends on why that is the case. Sometimes the father may be very religious, but he's very oppressive to the daughter, and sometimes even abusive in certain ways that you can find out from other people and maybe even from her. But if she avoids in involving any family member early, this is a red flag. If you're talking to her and it's through an app, and the second conversation, third conversation, she says, you know what, you're very, very handsome, and it seems that we would get along very, very well. I think this may work. And then you say, oh, mashallah, tabarakallah, I appreciate that. Well, let's talk to your wali. He says, well, no, I don't want to talk to him now. I want to get to know you a little more because there's some other questions that I have before I want to bring my wali forth. No, this is where it's a red flag, because she's starting to mention her interest in you and compliment you, and even maybe mention her feelings towards you. That's where the emotional door starts to open and feelings get involved. And those feelings are malleable. They're not static. What's static, what is very important, is getting the wali involved to where, from a male perspective, he knows how to do tashkhis. He knows how to look at you and ask certain questions and see certain things, hopefully if he is an involved wali. Sometimes you'll find...
Absolutely. That is one of the biggest issues in the West, because even in the West, back in the day, people got married and then they started having sex. Nowadays, it is the other way around. People just have sex. And then after having sex with multiple people, maybe they're going to think about settling down, and then they're wondering why their marriage doesn't work out. They're going to get divorced, and then they repeat that cycle, rinse and repeat. But why I'm mentioning this here is because I have to confirm yet again what the Sheikh says here. Already talking to each other and exchanging certain compliments is already so emotionally heavy that people can fall in love and make a non-rational decision. And yes, it is extremely important to make a rational decision when it comes down to marriage, but people are so brainwashed with Hollywood nowadays that they believe that it's all emotion, just love, love is love, who cares about rationale? Let's just love each other and everything will work out. But it won't work out, because it comes down to core principles, of course. And therefore, to keep that rationale, you speak with the wali. You speak from men to keep the discussion rational and to make a rational decision. But in the West, the system is completely hijacked, because as we already established, compliments is already enough. A little bit of touching. Now imagine kissing, having sex. When you have sex, you're secreting dopamine, all kinds of hormones. The woman is secreting oxytocin, the binding hormone. It's this cocktail of hormones, and then you fall in love. But it's just an illusion. You didn't really measure and understand who that woman is. Neither did she. And then next thing you know, you get married, and a few years later, or maybe even sooner, you end up in divorce.
And the father is not that involved. The wali is not that involved. She needs to, upon herself, be responsible and find a party, someone that's a relative, grandfather, uncle, older brother, that's responsible, hopefully religious, fears Allah, and is the guardian and asks for her well-being, certain questions, feels you out, checks your temperature. If she avoids all of that, that is a red flag. She may just want to go on a date. She may just want to find out more about you and get more information about you. And there is no sign of investment from your end, which is a sign of responsibility, leadership. Her not wanting to get the close family members involved, particularly her wali or someone that's close to the wali, that is a red flag. Red flag number 4, poor conflict handling. I mean, when there's a disagreement, how does she respond? This is very important for the questioning process when you court her and you sit with her.
It's very nice.
And ask her questions. You know, when you ask her questions about certain important factors in the marriage life, in the marital relationship, and you disagree with it. For example, she asks you, do you want your wife to work? And you say, no, I would prefer that my wife doesn't work. Or if she works and then when we have children, I prefer her to go part-time because I view the kids as the most important. And then she may respond and say, well, I totally disagree with that. That is really a very misogynistic approach. And this is the problem with men today, right? That response is a red flag.
Bye-bye.
Because you're mentioning your opinion after she asked you for it, but then she starts to insult the individual that does what you have mentioned and what you would prefer. That is an insult. You're misogynistic because you prefer your wife to work part-time, or you prefer your wife to be at home when you're able to be the provider. Granted, this is where it's poor communication skills, to where there has to be an insult in voicing.
Yeah, it's absolutely unbelievable. Now, again, this boils down to liberalism because everybody has been brainwashed nowadays. And on top of that, it comes down to this dating climate, even with Muslims. I've seen it before, man. Unfortunately, Muslims in the West don't keep it halal. Again, not everybody, but many really don't. So many Muslims and Muslimas I've seen had boyfriends, girlfriends, relationships, situationships, and whatnot. And ultimately, even people that got married then got divorced. And therefore, nobody nowadays wants to be dependent on another person. They simply don't see the value in marriage anymore because they believe, and I can't even blame them because statistically it is true, that 50% of marriages end up in divorce. And therefore, they want to be self-sufficient. Again, pair that with the brainwashing. They want to be a boss lady. They want to be self-empowered. They want to be strong and independent. And they don't want to rely on a man. What if we get divorced one day? Where will I be then? And the men say, before I get married here legally, I want to sign a prenup. So it goes both ways. Already before marriage, both parties nowadays are very cynical and very skeptic because it is a reality nowadays. This is really what it boils down to. So therefore, you can't even blame anybody.
Now, there could be, oh, wow, yeah, I really prefer to work, and I prefer to have a nanny, especially if it's in my first years of, the job that I went to college for. I really want to help in this regard, but, I don't think that it's going to work for me. That's fine. That's not bad character and bad conduct. But if you disagree with an opinion she may have in something, you say, well, no, I respectfully disagree with that. And she starts to lash out. Why would anyone disagree with that? There was a case where a brother, was asked, the sister asked him, I want to stay in my city after getting married. What do you think about that? And he says, no. Well, based on if I have to get a job and my job, recruits me to a different city, I would expect my wife to comply with that. And she said, comply? Comply? What do you mean comply?
Is already a strong word.
What am I, some kind of slave? That's a red flag. So
that's a big red flag. She should obey, ideally. Obey. Compliance is the bare minimum in a marriage.
When we see the communication skills and understanding how she handles conflict or disagreement in a way that is very combative, she may raise her voice out of passion in something. Yep. They're not even married yet. That is a red flag. Red flag number 5, pride. Pride. Because pride blocks growth. Pride is a product of a fixed mindset that doesn't accept any type of advice, generally speaking.
True.
And if the wife doesn't accept advice from the husband, how will she accept a request from him if he really wants something done, right? The fact that she is not humble enough to, in a conversation, even before marriage, mention a mistake that she has. So for one of the questions that the man would ask is, mention one mistake that you made and how did you rectify it? Or what is a weak point of yours? What is your kryptonite? What things have your dad said about you that you probably need to work on, right? And she says, well, I don't really think I need to work on anything right now. I mean, I think it was really the
That's
other
all
person.
the answers.
She blames other people. If you find her, blaming
but this is just female nature, man. Honestly, show me one woman that has accountability and I will show you a man, ultimately. This is really what it is. women do not have accountability. They're not biologically wired that way. A woman always has to save face. She has to appear perfect. She cannot admit any type of deficiency, even though we know from hadith that there is a deficiency in them. Anyways, the point of the story is that you cannot hold a woman accountable ever because she's not a man. We men hold each other accountable. This is what we do. We test each other. We confirm if something is correct or not, if somebody transgresses, etc. This is what we do because we are men, because we are rational. But in the emotional landscape of the female mind, there is no accountability. It is all emotion. She can do and say whatever she feels in the moment. And therefore, again, I agree with the Shaykh here, you have to find a woman that is not so proud. Because accountability, you cannot expect from any woman out there ever. But when it comes down to pride, yes, you can screen and select to not find a woman that is so proud. Because if you pair the lack of accountability with pride, you have a recipe for disaster.
Is if she was married before and it was an amicable divorce, he was not abusive, and she still mentions a fault of her ex-husband to answer the question about her goodness, that's a red flag. That is a red flag. It is important that when you ask her a question about something, a mistake that she made, or, you know, something that she's trying to work on, that she is willing to admit it. She's willing to say, you know what, yeah, I this is one thing that I work on. You
Good
know,
luck.
SubhanAllah, I'm someone that's very passionate. So at times I may raise my voice, not out of disrespect, but just out of passion of, you know, child abuse. So whenever I hear it, I'm very passionate about it. That's humility, because she's admitting one of her challenges. She knows that it can be taken the wrong way, and she's willing to admit it, right? You give her an Islamic reminder or something, like when she's given an Islamic reminder, how does she react to it? You know, this is important. SubhanAllah, humility is huge in a marriage, especially from, I mean, the man as well. He needs to be, men need to know how to, when they hear the haqq, they submit to it from their wife, from their children. But if the woman doesn't accept that, if she doesn't accept, you know, being wrong, and she won't admit when she's wrong, and she just says,
which
this
woman
is just
does?
how I am, that is a red flag. So those are 5 red
flags. That is a woman.
Brothers.
Yeah, very interesting 5 red flags. I didn't expect this, but this is why I wanted to watch the video. I want to hear it from a sheikh himself, what kind of red flags he sees from the Islamic lens. But ultimately, my critique here is, as I said in the video, the number 1 red flag, and he should have mentioned that, is the relationship with the father. Now, there are exceptions to the rule. There's always a 0.1% chance that this doesn't apply to a particular woman. However, generally speaking, a woman that has a daddy's complex will be an absolute mess. She grew up in a household with an, let's say, abusive father, with an absent father, or with an abusive mother that absolutely dominated the father. Be that as it may, it doesn't matter what the reason was. She didn't see how a relationship between a wife and a husband has to look like. Therefore, she was not able to model that, and this determines the outcome of her life. This determines her brain chemistry. It is truly the case. There are even studies on this where they have proven that children that grow up in single mother households without a father, they produce less oxytocin, they produce less binding hormone, so they are biologically altered. Now think about it. 50% of marriages end up in divorce anyways, so that means that at least 50% of our human population is already biologically altered, and therefore it is so important for you to screen. And therefore, as an add-on, respectfully, Shaykh, first screen for the relationship with the father. Yes, the wali, etc., very important points, obviously, but if she didn't have a father, a model in her household, she will never respect you. It will never work. Other than that, I have plenty of other red flags that I would add to the list. Yet again, the Shaykh is very nice, very kind, very warm, soft-spoken, beautiful, mashallah. But I personally grew up in the West, and the things that I've seen with non-Muslims and Muslims alike are absolutely atrocious, absolutely horrendous, and therefore, a few other red flags here would be promiscuity. Yet again, you would think that this is the default state. Zina, Muslims do not commit zina. Well, I beg to differ, and therefore, yes, we say that if Allah concealed your sin, then you should not expose it, etc., etc. But yes, absolutely, you as a man should screen and should check if that woman was promiscuous before she enters into marriage? Is she still a virgin? I'm not talking about somebody that was married. I'm talking about Muslimas that had boyfriends, had relationships, etc., you name it. I've seen it all. So you have to screen for that as well. Another red flag that I would throw in there is social media. What kind of pictures does she post on social media? Who is she in contact with? Is she communicating with other men? Man, the list of red flags doesn't end here on my watch. So yet again, respectfully, this was a very kind list of the Shaykh. Anyways, guys, I'm going to cut it off here. Let me know in the comment section if you want me to create a red flag list when it comes down to women. If you have any interest in that, I will do so. If you enjoyed this video, leave me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and check out the links in the description box below. Check out my new ebook as well, where I talk about my reversion journey to Islam. And as always, may God bless you all. Much love and peace.
يا نفس إن لم تظفري لا تجزعي